It's not just radio, it's Rockland World Radio. RocklandWorldRadio.com.
Welcome to Sober University, your next step to successful recovery, with Cheryl Adler, who says if you are going to crave anything, crave living life to the fullest. Maximize all you have and squander nothing. This program provides information to help you get your physical, mental, and spiritual house in order. And now, the host of Sober University, Cheryl Adler.
Good evening. Tonight's show is about your relationship with money, based on the chapter title in my book, Sober Finance. My guest, Larry Luxenberg, who is a financial advisor at Lexington Avenue Capital Management, is here to share his financial expertise and help us with your money. Larry can be reached at 845-708-5306, and his website, which has a wealth of information, is lexingtonave.com, and Larry's email is Luxenberg, Luxenberg, at lexingtonave.com. Please join us in our chat room at rocklandworldradio.com or call us with your questions at 845-353-2910. Your participation makes for an even more interesting show. When you read about Larry on his website, you will see he is a man of many interests. He is a lover of nature and the great outdoors, and he wrote a book all about his passion for hiking called Walking the Appalachian Trail, which Larry literally did from start to finish. Welcome to the show, Larry.
Well, thanks for having me, Cheryl.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I know that you have so much to share in the context of how to save money, invest money, and there's just things that people who listen to my show who are in recovery for many reasons. Some of them are in recovery for gambling, and others are in recovery for so many other addictions. But this area of money is always a pretty sensitive topic for people. So what I'd like to do is have you help us learn how to make great investments in fortifying their sober lifestyle by understanding how to best work with their own money. And that's where I'd like to start, because we live in a culture which really emphasizes this buy now, pay later kind of mindset. Wouldn't you agree?
I would. And the first step to improving your finances is to start to take a longer-term view of your financial picture. And I like to focus people on the big picture and the long term.
And that's a very important thing for my listeners, because addictions often keep you in the immediacy of the moment of what you want right now, must have it, can't wait, feels urgent, sometimes it feels impulsive or compulsive. So what you're explaining to us right now is how very valuable it is to be able to sit quietly, take a deep breath, and think about what's ahead of you.
Oh, absolutely. Unless you can have that long-term, big picture vision, it's really hard to get your finances squared away.
That's exactly right. You would actually be putting obstacles in your own way without creating that kind of a mindset.
Right, and to save and invest, you have to believe that the money would be better spent years down the road. So developing that kind of patience and that long-term outlook is absolutely key.
That's quite a discipline.
It is, and you have to have a great picture of what your vision is, whether it's to send your children to college, whether it's to plan a retirement for yourself, whether it's to secure your future and not have to worry about finances. But you need some kind of passionate goal before you can discipline yourself to improve your financial affairs.
Oh, that's a very important point. Can you tell our listeners, how can people get started?
Well, exactly that. Figure out what your most important goals are, and then try and develop a roadmap to get to those goals. And I also like to get people focused on exactly what their financial picture is right now. Put it down on paper. List all your assets, what you owe. A lot of times it can be scary to people to face the actual numbers, but I find when they do face that reality, they're usually better off. And then a good next step is to actually try and understand where you are spending money. So it's a good discipline for everybody to take maybe a week and just write down everything you spend in that time, so you actually understand where your money is going.
I think people would be very shocked when they see where they're spending their money, because I think some of it is so habitual that they're not really paying so much attention to it.
We're all creatures of habits, and a little bit of spending here or there can add up. Picking up a couple of cups of coffee at a diner or a coffee shop every day can add up to hundreds or thousands of dollars in the course of a year.
Yeah, I think Susie Ormond was talking about that as the latte factor.
Well, it's especially these days when a cup of coffee has gone up a lot, it can really add up.
$20 a cup, right? And all the permutations of that cup of coffee, right?
Absolutely.
Yes, yes. So can you share some of the basic principles of saving money? And how can people become motivated to save their money when they don't get the same instant gratification that they get saving money as they do buying lottery tickets and really thinking that ticket is going to be the winning ticket?
Well, I think one way to really get excited about saving and investing is just picture that goal. Be as specific as you can be. If it's to save for retirement, picture that you're going to get a house on the beach in Florida. Visualize exactly what that house is going to look like. Set a goal, what year you're going to get that house. And the more vivid you can make that goal, the easier it is to save and invest. But another way to do it is to set up some kind of automatic mechanism. Maybe have a portion of your paycheck automatically deposited to a savings account or an investment account so you don't even notice it.
That's a great idea. You won't even miss it.
You won't even miss it, and over the years it'll really grow.
That's a great idea. I like that.
Well, good.
I really like that idea. So the power of visualizing something and making it so important, making it a top priority in your financial life.
Saving and investing has to become a priority because there are always things you want to spend on today. But also, if you can picture how money can grow, and if you invest in the stock market, our recent experience hasn't been that good, but over the long haul, over the last 100 years, the stock markets have grown about 10% a year. So what that means is a dollar on average would double in 7 years. So it can be really powerful over a long term. And even people who are getting ready to retire, they might be in their early 60s or mid 60s, and they think, well, right now I have to be conservative. But the average lifespan for Americans who are in their 60s now could be to the mid 80s, and many live into their 90s. So over a 30-year period, investments can really add up.
And that makes it even all the more important because you don't want to outlive your money.
You absolutely don't want to outlive your money, and people tend not to see how long they potentially can live, so they do have to plan for a longer term future. And I'm constantly pushing people to try and envision that they may live 20, 30 years into retirement, and they may also be investing for their kids or grandkids. So most people do have a long saving and investing horizon.
So would you say that you take a conservative approach to investing money?
I think in general in investing, conservative has been overused, and most people, when they use conservative, they mean they don't want to ever lose money. but they're not thinking about how inflation can erode the value of money. So the example I like to give, it really makes inflation graphic. In 1975, a first-class postage stamp cost 10 cents. The same stamp costs 45 cents today.
It's pretty stunning.
It's pretty stunning. So you would have had to grow your money almost 4 times, 5 times to be able to purchase that same stamp
Wow.
40 years later. So being conservative doesn't just mean not losing money, but it means retaining that purchasing power over a relatively long investment horizon.
Right. So I think what I meant by that word is that you're not really teaching people how to be a day trader and jump in and out of things, but to really look at the big horizon and to stick with something.
I think by definition, investing means that you're putting money to work over a long period of time. Somebody who's day trading or trading in and out, that's really speculating rather than investing. And to have a sound financial future, I think you'd need to take a more conservative approach.
Yes. So if people are listening and they're saying, well, I don't even have a savings or a checking account, what would you say about that?
Well, I think it's important for people to take that simple step, to develop, make sure you have a checking account to start to participate in the financial system. And even if you owe a fair amount of money, you can improve your financial picture by paying off those debts, and eventually you'll have those debts paid off, and then you can start to save. But it's all a continuum, so I don't think anybody is too hopeless, and I don't think anybody is in too good a shape to save and invest.
That's great. I also think that teaching people about how to have a reserve of money, which I think is a little bit different from investing, but being able to have money for what I would call a rainy day, or just in case you needed a car repair or to pay a medical bill or even plan a vacation, that having some sort of a financial cushion is an important thing to have.
Well, that financial cushion, that emergency fund, rainy day fund, is the absolute critical first step to improving your financial future. And when I'm talking about investing, I'm generally talking about a long term. So for a stock investment, you would want to have at least 5 years for that investment to grow and mature. So before you can even start thinking about that kind of horizon, you should have some kind of an emergency fund, maybe 3 to 6 months worth of savings, because all kinds of emergencies come up. People lose their job, have health problems, car accidents, whatever it is. So you need some kind of emergency fund before you can really get started on investing.
Yeah, I think that's a very important point. And I think money can really empower people.
Well, one of the greatest problems people have is their worries about finances. I mean, for married couples, that's one of the greatest sources of tension and can often lead to divorce. So if you can get your financial picture stabilized, it can reduce your tension, give you more confidence in your future, and open up yourself to lots of alternatives in the future. So it's really a great thing for people if they can set themselves at ease about their financial picture.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I know that in this half hour we're kind of giving people a very much of a crash course here. And this is really an introduction to what I hope will be maybe a series of conversations to delve more specifically into money matters.
Well, that would be a wonderful thing, because I've been fascinated by finances for a long time, and there's really so much to understand, and even to get the basics down, it takes quite a while.
It does. So let's go into some deeper waters of investing. What are some basic things people should know about investing, and how do we get people excited about it? I know you said envision something down the road, really visualize it, but are there any other factors that can really excite people and make them really feel that they're doing the right thing with their money?
There's, I guess one of the basic things that can get people excited is there are a number of things they can do to control their own financial destiny. And I think people often feel hopeless about their understanding of the economy or what's happening in the world, but there are a lot of things they can do to take control, and I think that idea that they can take control of their financial affairs can get them excited. So by understanding where they are and where they want to get to, understanding what their debts are, having a plan for paying off those debts, get them under control, having ideas about how to invest, I think can excite people. And I think one of the core concepts that people really need to understand and truly understand is to diversify their investments.
Well, tell us what you mean by diversify.
Okay. We live in a world where the economy has gone increasingly global.
Right.
And the United States portion of the world stock markets, for example, has diminished quite a bit. So right now the U.S. represents only about 40% of the world's stock markets, and we know that many parts of the world are growing faster than us. So I would definitely participate in the U.S. market, but I would also want to participate globally, and that's part of what I mean by diversifying. People oftentimes will hold a single stock, they'll hold a single property, and not really understand the risk that could happen to them 5-10 years down the road if
that's all they have.
If that's all they have and it doesn't work out. A good example of that is with the real estate crash over the last 3 or 4 years.
Sure.
If your major asset was your house and it went down 40 or 50%.
That's a great example.
Yeah, you're not having a great outcome to your investing.
That's correct. So this is an area where we really do want to say, don't put your eggs in one basket.
Oh, absolutely. Those eggs can all break at once if they're all in the same basket, so you want to spread them around.
Well, that sounds very, very important. So that's diversifying.
That's a critical thing, and a lot of people learned that lesson over the last 5 or 6 years.
Yes, for sure. So how do people learn to invest their money, and how do they know who they can trust with the money that they have?
Those are a couple of difficult questions, but in terms of how people learn, I think that the first step is to get comfortable with finances. Do only what you can understand. Learn a little bit at a time, and not participate in investments that you can't understand. There are plenty of good websites and books. There's no one website or book that I would say has the complete answers.
Right.
But just familiarizing yourself, making sure that when you do invest, you read about the investment, you try and understand. And if you're talking to somebody, a financial advisor who's explaining a product to you, if you can't understand the product, or you get the sense that he can't understand the product, that's probably not good for you.
It's probably not in the right language.
Probably not. I do have a bias. I'm from a group of financial advisors that are fee only and are held to what's called a fiduciary standard. So for us, we have to put the client's interests first. So I think that's a good thing for.
It's a very good thing
for people to look at. Those kind of advisors don't have a monopoly on wisdom or doing good for their customers, but I think that's a good place to start.
That is a great place to start, because you're not necessarily being sold a product because your financial advisor is eager to dump something or to make a lot of money off of that choice they're helping you to make.
Right. Those are people that are trying to ensure the long-term interest of their customer and prosper through the long-term prosperity of their customer.
That sounds like a wonderful partnership.
Well, that's the idea.
That's fantastic. So, can you tell our listeners, are there specific things that they should be cautious about?
Well, one of the things that people should particularly be cautious about is if they get a gut instinct that something sounds too good to be true. They may not understand what the risks are, they may not understand what the problems are, but if it doesn't sound realistic, then there's probably something that they don't understand, but it's a real hazard. So a good example now, interest rates are historically low. They're the lowest we've seen in our lifetimes. So if somebody promises you a high interest rate and says it's guaranteed, you're probably missing something. So right now, the safest investments might provide a yield of 1 or 2% a year. So if somebody promises you a safe yield of 8, 10, 12% a year, undoubtedly there's a risk there, and you better understand that risk. And if you don't, you better run away.
You better really run for the hills.
Absolutely, absolutely. It doesn't mean that it's a sure thing you're going to lose money, but it's something you want to worry about.
Right. It sounds like it might be snake oil.
It very well might.
Yes, and people work so hard for their money these days. They really want that money to work for them, not against them.
Oh, absolutely. You want to be very careful with your money. You want to think hard about how you're spending it, and hard about how you're investing it.
And you want to be able to sleep at night.
Oh, absolutely.
So I think some of these high-risk, quote, investments can really cause stress with the promise of all these high-yielding results, which you're cautioning us about.
Well, I'm cautioning you about some of these high-yield investments, and you might sleep well because you don't understand what the risk is, but that doesn't mean the risk isn't there.
Exactly. So I know that you're not recommending any particular book, but I'm sure that you yourself have some favorite books on economics or investing, or particular people that you have found for yourself to be inspiring and knowledgeable. Are there any of those that you could share with us?
Well, I have a great deal of admiration for John Bogle, who started the Vanguard funds, and I think in general that's a good place for beginning investors to start to understand the investment world. His philosophy was to broadly diversify and to keep control of your cost, and to make your investments very transparent and easy to understand for consumers.
And could you just repeat his name one more time?
John Bogle.
John Bogle.
Bogle.
L.E. And has he written any books, or can he just be found online?
He has written books and speeches, and there are others. I do list a number on my website of other index type or passive investors, and I believe that's a philosophy that individuals would be well served with.
Yes, I had an uncle who was a great believer in the index funds.
The record over time has been very good.
It's proven over time it's to be very solid.
Right. We now have about 4 decades of experience with index funds, and
that's a lot.
It is a lot.
Yes.
So they've been very good for a lot of individuals.
So that might be something that our listeners can really read about, just to learn about what is an index fund, and hopefully they can get excited about that.
Yes, I think with those kind of broad-based investments over the long term, they tend to be reasonably predictable, so people can make certain assumptions about their financial futures. And there's always going to be some variability, but you can. But by doing some of those things, you can control and have a more detailed picture of what your future is going to be like over the years.
That sounds quite exciting to me.
Well, I've found it to be very exciting and very interesting, and
Yes, it is.
there's quite a bit of information, and one of the things I like about this profession is there's an endless amount to learn. So I do find it fascinating, and I hope your listeners can start to pick up some of that excitement
I hope so too.
and pick up some of these concepts.
Yeah, no, it is. It's a very exciting world, and it's really all about growth. It's about the growth of your money and your own personal growth and self-empowerment and being in the world of having rather than not having. So I think those are all very important, and I encourage people to be in touch with you, to go to your website. I would also like it if you could mention to our listeners these very interesting workshops that are coming up. Could you share that with us?
Well, first of all, I'd like to mention I'm going to be doing an investment seminar next Wednesday, March 14th at the Comfort Inn in Nanuet, and I'll be covering some of these basic investment concepts as well as some more advanced investment concepts. And this coming Saturday, there's a very unique event. It's been being put on by the Financial Planning Association, as well as a number of partners, including the Westchester Community College. It'll be at the Westchester Community College starting at 8:30 Saturday morning. And there'll be 19 workshops talking about basic financial literacy, some of the things we've been talking about, including debt management, so some of the basics of managing your debt, also investment basics and paying for college. And you'll have the opportunity to meet with financial advisors one-on-one for 20 minutes and go over some of the documents that you may have trouble understanding, or get some opinions about basic financial things for yourself.
I'm sorry that I will not be able to attend, but hopefully you'll have another one of these wonderful workshops yourself. I want to just reiterate, this is at the Westchester Community College on Saturday, March 10th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. And is there a website that we can... Go online to mysunywcc.org. That's mysunywcc.org. And there are so many interesting topics that will be covered: retirement planning, investment basics, estate planning, insurance. This one sounds incredible: financial scams, because people can be so trusting and so eager to make money. They may be seduced into these things, like the Ponzi schemes.
Well, throughout history, there have been all sorts of financial scams, and even fairly sophisticated individuals have fallen prey to scams. The Madoff scam was the greatest in history, and he entrapped all sorts of sophisticated institutional investors. So no one is immune from financial scams.
That's right.
So that's one thing to look out for these days too. The more transparency and clearness in the investment process and how the financial affairs are being handled, the better off you are.
Absolutely. I think it is so easy to fall into the realm of financial scams because you so much want to believe what somebody's telling you and you're trusting them.
Right, and some of the products can be very complicated and difficult to understand. So throughout history, there have always been financial scams, so it's always something to be wary of.
It's like a used car salesman. You got to watch these guys, right?
You do.
Okay, well, we have other topics at this wonderful workshop: income tax strategies, starting a business, which I think is very motivating and exciting for people who have a dream that they'd like to make come true, but they're not really sure where to begin in that process. Paying for college, which is quite an enormous undertaking these days. And like you said before, debt management, which I think so many of us fall into, is having the debt pile up and outweigh our savings and our investments. And then we also have veterans benefits, which sounds very important.
Yes, there are special programs for veterans, and it's a whole specialized area. So that's something veterans shouldn't be afraid to turn to. They're social workers and financial advisors who specialize in that, and they can be very helpful.
That's fantastic. Okay, so that's March 10th, and let's just repeat your presentation, which is happening on Wednesday, March 14th at 7 p.m. at the Comfort Inn. And I love the title of your presentation, Investing in Times of Economic Turmoil and What You Can Do About It. How do I know I have enough money for retirement? Why is no one smarter than the market? Are you really a conservative investor? Do you look at the whole picture? Have you integrated Social Security into your planning? So I hope that my listeners will consider attending both or at least one of these wonderful events.
Well, that would be great. I think they'll both be really interesting events, and people will learn a lot if they're able to attend.
For sure, and I myself will be signing up for one of these when I get back from my trip. We're going to be wrapping up the show right now, and I'd like to ask if there's a singular message you'd like to leave with our listeners as we close our show.
The main thing is that everybody can take control of their financial future, and I think we've learned over the last few years that there are a lot of things to worry about, but we shouldn't be too pessimistic about the future. If we take control, if we learn the basics, we can develop a really good financial future for all of us. There's many things that are under our control. So that's the message I'd like to leave with people.
That's a wonderful message. And Larry, we talked about you coming back and doing a couple of more conversations here, kind of like a series. So what can our listeners look forward to when you come back for more on sober finance?
Taking those next steps into the future, and I think a good one would be retirement planning, because that's something where I see a lot of people worrying about, particularly these days.
Absolutely.
Whether they'll be able to retire at all.
Yeah, I kind of wish that all of these very necessary and important concepts were taught to us when we were growing up in high school, so that we would be much better prepared and it would have been in our mindset from the very beginning.
Yeah, there's a lot of demand for that. I hear that pretty frequently, but financial literacy isn't taught. That's something that's left for adults to learn the whole way on their own, and that's unfortunate. So
I think so too.
A lot of us in the financial industry are trying to get more involved in educating adults and younger people.
That's wonderful. Larry, I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to be with us.
Well, thank you so much, Cheryl. I've enjoyed being here.
Me too. So I want to just repeat that if you need more information and you'd like to speak with Larry directly, please call him at 845-708-5306 and visit him at his website, Lexington Ave, LEXINGTON@AVE.com. We want you to be motivated to take Larry's advice and put it into action. That's all the time we have for now. You can reach me here at my home away from home, rocklandworldradio.com, at my psychotherapy office, 845-358-4652, or visit me at my website, soberuniversity.com. Remember, if you're going to crave anything, crave living life to the fullest. Maximize all you have and squander nothing. See you next week. Good night.
It's not just radio, it's Rockland World Radio. Rockland RocklandWorldRadio.com.